All right, can you guys hear me now? Wait, let me see. Can you hear me? I'm talking to you guys. Yeah, it's one thing after another. Maybe it's not my destiny, but we're just going to keep it moving. All right, so here is the, hey girls, technology again. I kept trying to connect and it kept saying reconnecting and then it did nothing. Can you guys hear me at all? Let me know if you can hear me, guys. Oh, well, y'all not saying anything? Dang. All right. So, like I was saying earlier, orchids are made of 5 petals as well as a middle piston. All right. So, in order to create a sugar orchid, I am going to make a moth orchid. And yeah, I don't know what's going on with it. Anyways, so I actually get all of my really great cutters from the Sugar Art Studio. They're a really high-end cutter provider. Their items are top-notch. So with that, in order to make a moth orchid out of gum paste, you're going to need a few things. The first are the cutters, as well as the veiners and the middle piston creator. You're going to need water, cornstarch, various gauge wires, and for this one I'll be using 24 gauges for the exterior petals, and for the center pieces I will be using 26 gauge. All right, you are going to need some Crisco or shortening. All right, you're also going to need gum paste. I tend to use satinized gum paste. It works for me, no complaints. And it's really good for like mass production. When I'm doing competition cakes, I use a higher end gum paste. You are going to need a roller or a rolling pin, a Dresden tool, a little brush to put the water on the item, and then you're going to need Stephanie, what do we call these? I guess like a leaf former, a leaf veiner, as well as a foam cushion. And then this is just some memory foam from, I don't know, Amazon. And then they no longer sell these. And I remember I was going to get rid of them. And then Stephanie told me, you better not, because they don't sell them anymore. These are flower formers. They really were used for, I believe, buttercream cakes. But I use them for the orchids. And then if you want to create the buds, you would need a bud former. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Now, the first thing we need to do is cut out some 26 gauge wire. And this is just regular floral wire. And what we're gonna do is, I use my handy dandy bleached out napkin, and I'm smoothing out the wire, and I'm going to cut these into 4 inches in length. And for one orchid, I am going to need 2 of these. All right, so we're going to count this out in 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's right there. Sorry, forgot to mention right here. One second, guys. You guys still there? All right, here we go. All right, I keep hitting all these daggone buttons. All right, so I'm cutting them into 4-inch length. So here's the first one, and here's the second one. All right, it's better to get the inner pieces cut first, meaning, I don't know, the piston section. That way you allow it time to dry. So let's go ahead and make the top center portion of an orchid. So you know when you're looking at a moth orchid and the middle part is sort of bent like this, there's a little hood right here at the top. So we're going to create that piece first. Go ahead and light up my candle. And I tend to use candles instead of water. I just like the fact that the candle, the hot wire will automatically attach to the gum paste and melt into it, so I don't have to really worry about drying time. All right, so now I'm going to create an itty bitty hook right here on the top, just like so. All right, now I need to get the gum paste, and again, like I said, I'm using Satin Eyes. No shade to Satin Eyes. I love Satin Eyes, but if this was a competition cake, I would use a really higher end gum paste so that I have more time to form my flowers. All right, I'm just going to put a little bit of Crisco on my fingers, and I'm going to knead this. Now, taking it, creating a little tubes like so. Then I'm going to take my wire, light it up, make sure that your fingers aren't really close to the heat because you don't want to burn yourself. Okay, and then you're going to slide it in. See that smoke? And basically now what's happening is the gum paste is stuck to the wire and it's not going anywhere. All right. So I want to sort of thin this out because I have to put this in this little bitty hole right here. And what I'm going to do, put a tad bit of Crisco in there so it doesn't stick. I'm going to open it up and I'm going to put it in. And I'm basically just going to squeeze it out. I'm going to take my Dresden. I don't know if you guys can see that. Sort of push it in. And when it comes out, it's going to look really weird, but that's what the hood of that piston, whatever you call it, looks like. All right. Now, you have to sort of stretch it out to pull it out. And that's what it looks like. I know, it looks weird. Nothing exciting, but that's what it is. All right, I'm going to cut off this little piece at the base. And I'm going to put this off to the side to dry. The next part is, and I have one already made, is I want to make the little baby piece, or the little, I call it a little man, but you know, it is what it is. All right, so for that, we need to do a couple of things. First and foremost, I need to put a very, very thin layer of gum paste right over here. Okay, and I'm just going to lay it on the form. And the reason why I want a really thin layer is because I am going to then cut out another piece to put on top and then fuse the pieces together. All right. So I'm gonna roll this out. I may need more. Oh, this one is not clean, so throw that to the side, get another piece. And Stephanie says, spa and what? Spa and Body Works? I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna roll it out. Again, really, really thin. And this is actually the longest part of creating the orchid, is creating the center piece. All right. Now, can you see how ultra thin that is? That's very, very thin. I want it actually a tad bit thinner because I don't want to make the little man too thick. All right, so I'm going to lay him on top and I'm going to push down with my fingers. All right, then I'm going to take the back of my paintbrush, put it in the center so I know where the little headpiece goes. And then I'm also going to open the center for its little eyeballs. That's what I call them. I could give you guys the correct anatomy names, but I don't have them on me right now. All right. where are my scissors? Take this and cut off this extra piece because I'm going to reuse this gum paste. And if someone can hire me, someone who can just come and do my daggone technology, I greatly appreciate it. I don't know. Every time I get on, I swear YouTube is like, nope, not today. All right, so put that back right there in the center. All right, I'm gonna put this off to the side, and now I need to roll the actual piece. Can you guys see that? All right. Can you? No, yeah, I can see your messages. All right. All right, so now I'm gonna add a little cornstarch. I'm gonna roll it to like a little sausage. I don't know if you guys can see that. And I'm gonna press out on the sides like so and like that. All right. I'm gonna pull this up and I'm going to pull out my cutter, which is over here. And the reason why I'm going to put it in this way is because I'm going to actually thread the wire from the bottom. So I'm going to cut it, I'm going to hold it and lift, and then use my finger to clean it up. All right. Now that we've got the little man cut out, I'm gonna take him out my veiner, out the cutter, and just lay him on my pad. I'm gonna put this away. Now to make the body, I'm also again gonna use that last piece of 26 gauge wire. Now I am not going to put a hook at the base. I'm just gonna make sure it's as straight and clean as possible. Also, to make sure that the gum paste doesn't stick to my hand, I'm gonna add a little flour. I'm gonna lift it up, and for some reason, I do not know why, I think it's because the way it's cut, this side always tends to get longer than the other side. Don't ask any questions. All right, so I'm melting the wire, or getting the wire heated up, and now I'm gonna thread it through. And I'm gonna use that little tunnel that was created from the groove board. That's what it is, Stephanie. See, I remembered. All right, now I'm gonna put baby boy down, and I am going to now add some water. Let me put this stuff away. Put some water very lightly onto this piece of gum paste. All right, just like so. I'm now going to take baby boy, and I am going to place him just like so, or as Tabitha Brown would say, just like so, just like that. All right, and I am going to open his little legs to make sure that he's in alignment with that. All right. All right, you know what? I just remembered, I missed a step. Give me 1 second. I was about to really set y'all down the wrong path, right? All right, so remember I said I put this little hole for his little feet, or his, I don't know what you call that part. I'm now gonna take another piece of gum paste, very tiny. I'm again gonna roll it into a teardrop. I'm gonna take my scissors and I am going to create little feet, just like that. See this little hole? I don't know if you guys can see, but in the mold, there is a divider right there. And I'm going to stick this right in there. Very gently. You don't have to do it tough or rough. I'm then going to cut off this peak. And then using my Dresden tool, I'm going to lightly connect it to the piece of gum paste that's on top. Very gently. You don't want to push too hard. Very gently. Then you're going to add some water. Make sure I have enough. I tend to go really light because I don't want to saturate the gum paste. And then I'm going to go back and add little man back to it. Okay, now, once little man is in there, I'm going to take my Dresden tool and I'm going to lightly connect the two pieces together. If you need to add a little bit of Crisco, do that. But you want the pieces to be well combined. Get back in there. And you take your time with this because you want to make sure that they adhere to each other. So when you take it out the mold or out of the veiner, you don't have to worry about any separation. If you need to add a little bit more water, you do that as well. And like I said before, this is the longest part of making your moth orchid. So what I recommend is if you have a series of moth orchids that you have to create, or any kind of orchid, that you start with making your centers and have a whole bunch of them off to the side. And you actually want to make more, you want to make extra, just in case they decide to break. Okay? Always have extras. All right. So I'm going to take him out. And you see how it blended in? And then this little piece is going to come off. But there's my baby boy. I'm going to go back with this cutter. Put a little bit of dust, making sure not to hit that center because we don't want to lose those little pieces right there. Make sure everything is lined up. And you're going to cut. Flip it over. Get off all that excess. Just like that. Flip it over, and now we're going to put it on the memory foam piece just to get it out. And you see he's already taken shape, right? Okay. Now, you can take a ball tool, and I'm just going to gently rub out the edges, just like this. You want to be very gentle. You don't want to push too hard because you don't want to lose any of that veining, if you can see it. All right, now I'm going to lift him up. I'm going to get my more firm petal or foam pad. And I'm just doing the edges because if you see the edges are sort of thick, they look kind of square. All right, and that's all I'm doing. All right. All right, now, for his little legs, I'm gonna get a little bit of Crisco, and you wanna sort of squeeze and twiddle his legs, if that makes sense. So I can take that little extra piece off because he doesn't want to work with me. And when you're dealing with the little tiny details like that, ugh, it can be a lot. So you see how I'm just twisting it just a little bit, and then I'm curving them in, just like that. Get a little bit more Crisco. Twiddle him. And get him just like that. Now, because we have him on a wire, I can now bend him. And I can put him, I'm gonna pull up my ones that I've already done. In a mattress former, just like so. And I would just manipulate him to go like that. All right. So now we've got little man done. And we've also got his hat done. We're just going to call it the hat. I'll give you all the technical terms later. These are all the ones that I've already done. Now we're going to create the petals. And remember how I said earlier, it's comprised of 5 petals. So I need 2 of the wide ones that go like this. All right, when you see an orchid, it's like that. Then you're going to have 1 petal here, 1 here, and then another one here. All right, so we need to make 2 of these and 3 of these. I'm going to go back to my groove board, and I'm going to roll out my gum paste. Now for these, I do tend to make each leaf separately. The good thing about a groove board is I could literally take a long piece of gum paste, roll it into a sausage, cut it out, and then I can cut out various petals. But because this one is of a weird size, for whatever reason, I just prefer to do it one at a time. All right. So I'm going to take my gum paste again, knead it, form it again to a sausage, place it on the groove board, and because I want this shape, I'm going to roll it like such. So now, I don't know if you can tell, but as I'm rolling out, I'm still keeping the center kind of meaty. So if you can see, I'm going to the side of the groove and rolling out. So there's actually a little hump right here. I'm going to take it out. And it's still a little sticky. It's a little humid. I have my dehumidifier running in the background. And I am going to cut my petal. I like to pull away my gum paste and then come around and clean it up. Now, for the 5 petals, I am going to need 5 pieces of 24 gauge wire. Same process, 4 inches in length. Give me 1 second. All right, so again, 4 inches, just right here. And then I use the first one I've cut to measure out the remaining pieces. All right, so I'm going to do 5. Just make sure too you don't stab yourself. I tend to do that a lot. All right, now got my 1 piece. I'm making sure it's as straight as possible. And I am going to then melt it in, following along the groove, and pinching it at the base. And don't worry about that little piece, because it's gonna disappear once we vein it. All right, so I have the veiner. And before I do that, really quickly, you're gonna again take your ball tool. You're just gonna soften up the edges, just like so. And again, I'm on the outside. Only a little part of the ball tool is actually touching the gum paste. All right. I am going to place it like so. And then I'm going to push down. And you see here, there's a little bit of gum paste that came out. I just pull that out. And I don't know if you can see all the details from the veiner. It's pretty dope. All right. Then, as I mentioned before, I don't think Wilton is selling these anymore. But I'm going to place it in my former just like so, because I want the edges to curl in a little bit. All right, I'm going to repeat that process one more time. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. All right. So the last time I made a whole bunch of orchids was when I submitted a cake to, I don't know, back in the days we had Cake Central magazine. I had never made orchids before, ever. But I was like, let me give it a try. And luckily, my cake was not only featured on the inside of the magazine, but I also made the cover, which was pretty dope. All right, again, my piece, take my ball tool and just soften up the edges. Now this one's a little thicker, so you can see that it's ruffling a little bit more than the other one did, but that's fine. Because as we know in nature, not every petal is exactly the same. All right, again, softening this up. And adding the center. I'm going to pinch the end. And I'm going to take off any excess. I'm going to place it in the veiner. Pull it out. And voila. You can see all the tiny details, which I really love. This is why I love the Sugar Arts veiners and cutters. They are as horticulturally correct as you will ever get. So, and they have amazing customer service. Okay, now since I now have to do 3 of the exact same size petal, I am just going to do a long sausage and cut out the pieces. I'm going to roll it out. And because again, like I said, it's humid in here. And I'm going to keep the bottom part thick. All right, make sure it doesn't come out. All right. over. And I'm gonna flip it over. And then because, like I said, I've made all three in advance or in one swoop, I'm gonna cut out my 3 pieces. Just like so. You also want to always make sure that when you're not using gum paste, that you keep it in a sealed container, because you do not want it to dry out, which it does, especially satin ice dries out pretty quickly. All right, I need to make sure all my pieces are lined up. I'm gonna go ahead and get those in there. And then I'm going to cut off the excess, put it to the side. Okay, put it to the side. And the last petal. All right. Oop, flip it over. I'm gonna do the other side because the other side's a little straighter. Okay, now that I have my veiner, I'm going to place them. I can never remember which side is the bottom, which one is the top. It's like this, okay. All right, and you see these, if you recall, I did not take my ball tool to it because I want these to be a little thicker, all right? And what I'm gonna do is actually flip this over so that it can cup like that. All right, let me do the rest of them really quickly. Right here. Okay, so now these are all done and ready. I'm gonna put that off to the side, and you will need to allow these to dry completely, usually at least 1 day, and then you can go through the process of assembly. Now, if you remember earlier, I told you that I already made some pieces. So here's one, and here is another that's already made. All right, these are all of my leaves. I'll put this off to the side, or not my leaves, these are all my petals that I've already made. So I have the 3 and then the 2. Okay, now what's going to end up happening is you want to arrange it like so, so you know exactly where your pieces are going to go. So you got 2 right there. You've got 1 right here. You've got 1 coming in this way and 1 coming in this way. Then you have your center piece. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do, let me just go grab some white wire. So this is floral wire, and you can buy it from anywhere, and any that you have left over, like that you're not using. What I like to do is store mine in the freezer so that it remains tacky when I take it out. So you can see here, I'm just going to activate it. Now, what I want to do is bend the head at the tip. Oh, one of his things fell off because it's too thin, but it's okay. All right. Then his head is going to go just like that. Let me bend this a little bit more. At a 45 or 90 degree. And I'm going to put him right here. And I want to tape these two pieces together first. Just like that. Come on. All right, so now we've got the headpiece looking out. All right, now we need to put the top petal right here, just like so. So again, wrap it all the way down. So just like so. All right. Next two pieces that I want to put in are going to be the two legs, the bottom legs. So one will be right here. And now let me get the other one. Again, angle it. And his other one would go right here. Just like that. All right, let me cut it. It just refuses to, maybe being in the freezer too long. All right. So now we have our two legs in our head. Let me move you over. You need to stop moving. Just like so. All right, you see how it's coming together? Then I'm going to push this one in here. Right there. So it's just like so. And I think I've lost his other arm. Oh, it's down. Nothing a little glue won't fix. All right, right there. And then the other arm. And let me tape him up. Okay. So, and then once we attach these back, and I'll just use glue, edible glue, just like so. And this is what your final piece would look like if these had not broken off. So that is the process of making a moth orchid. Then of course you would color in the sections, the middle sections, and you could play around with the head and bend him down a little bit, just like so. And then you would have your moth orchid. All right, well, thank you for watching. I hope you learned a little something today, and I will chat with all of you again at a later date. All right, let me take you guys out. Ugh. I don't know how to get you guys out of this lock state. All right, guys. Talk to you later.